Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Okay, my friends, we gotta dive right into everything because I have, I think, 15 books to talk about this week, which honestly, that's the best week that I've had in months. And I mean, you guys know, I know that I read high volume, but I'm also not ever really like purposely trying to read a certain amount every week. I just know like what feels good to me and when I feel like I'm being slumpy and when I'm not. So it's all more like in my head than anything else. But this week was, well, definitely excellent for the volume that I read. Quality-wise, we'll see. But at the end of this, I will tell you which books were my favorite reads this week because I didn't have any 5-star reads in this week. Although I'm in the middle of 2 books that I think both have the potential to be 5 stars. We shall see. But a couple things to get through right away. First off, I have 4 new patrons to shout out to the channel. One of who literally just joined like 2 minutes before I was about to start this, and so I added her name to the list. But I just gotta tell you, I'm so appreciative of every one of you. I really, really am. You know, I share how tough it is sometimes to keep this going every month. You know, like this summer particularly, it's been really tight because it's like, do I get to do any of this stuff that I want, or am I only working on content all the time? And it's something that I love to do, so should I just be happy that I have to work as hard as I do? And it's a balance of everything, right? But you guys, your generosity, your kindness to me, your support whenever I try something new, like, I wish I could give every one of you a hug. I know not everyone's a hugger like me, but I wish I could give you all a hug for, you know, sticking with me through all these years. And those of you who are brand new, who find me and want to stick around, I love it. I always turn this into a sob story every time. Just welcome the people, Jen. Okay, so members, you know, Luna Lovegood decided to stop by to my little channel. So you know what? I'm sure that's a screen name. If it's not, if your name is actually Luna Lovegood, well, I freaking love that. But either way, one of my new patrons, her name is Luna Lovegood, and I adore that. That's amazing. Also, we have an Eve P, we have a Lana K, and we have a Penny H. And all 4 of you, thank you so much for supporting my channel. Every little bit added together means that I have food and books to make my life whole, and I appreciate it so much. Then, of course, I've been on a sewing trip lately, not only because I love being able to stock more things in my Etsy store, but also because I found some really cool fabrics, and because you'll see I've listened to a lot of audiobooks this week, and when I'm listening to an audiobook, I like my hands to be doing something. So I definitely have been having many more drops to my channel, or to my page, than I like meant to. But this recent drop I did had a restock of a lot of Disney and princess fabrics. So there's these cute little ones. I have this both in Kindle and larger size. There is some restock of these ones. So these are the, these are really cute. They're this pattern. They're this really cute pattern that's in these like little blocks right here. So there's these ones that I only have in Kindle size, but then I do have some of the stained glass Beauty and the Beast in both the indie size and in Kindle size, so check those out. And then I just have some cute patterns. This one is this gold and pink black like leopard print. I have those. This really pretty rose and green. This is in Kindle size. And then I do still have just a few of the dragon patterns. So I have one of the gold dragon, and I have some of these cute pink and purple dragons. So those ones are still available. So I'll have a link to my Etsy store if you're interested. I did just open shipping to Canada. Now, it's pretty pricey based on where you live, but I had some people in Canada ask if they could have it, and so I've opened it. So it's up to you if you want to pay for one when the shipping is about as much as the sleeve, but I did open shipping to Canada if you would like to check that out. And yeah, I always have a code. Some people forget to use the code, and I don't know why. Maybe they're just being extra generous or something, but I always have the Book Refuge 10, and you get 10% off your order. So definitely check out my Etsy store. Now, let us get into the books. because as I said, we have, let me just double check here. Yeah, we have 16 books to talk about, which is crazy. So as I said, none of these were 5-star reads for me. And I'll get into why I think that. A couple of reasons is I read a lot of novellas this week. I was just wanting to really like power through some books. I was feeling it. Some novellas I already had on my TBR because they were historical ones that I wanted to read for the readathon, and some were ones that just popped up to me randomly and I was like, I want to read that, so I went with it. But I'm someone who, I don't rate novellas very highly usually. Like, they have to be either within a series I already love, and so the novella is like an extra goodness, or they need to be like, I don't know, just something over the top, perfectly paced, perfectly done for it to be a 5-star for me. So that's part of it. But yeah, the first thing that I finished wasn't a novella at all. It was a fan fiction. So this was called Sweet Consequences, and it was by Evil Woman, I guess. This one was a Lucius Malfoy and Ginny Weasley fic. So I am working on kind of a secret project with fanfics, and this was one of the fanfics that will be for that. So keep an eye out. I will have more info about that coming soon. But this one it starts out kind of dark, but the fic itself is not dark. So this one begins with Voldemort has kidnapped Ginny, and he forces Lucius to rape her. He's literally like, if you don't do this, I'm going to kill your kids. And so Lucius doesn't want to do this, but he takes her in a room and he's like, hey, I don't want this to hurt you. I'm going to be as easy as I can with you. I know you're a virgin. I know you're young, but I'm not going to let my kids be killed, or my child and my wife be killed for you. So this is going to happen, and we'll have to make it happen. And so he does the deed. It's not shown. We just see the before and the after. And then it skips ahead to Ginny finding out that she's pregnant and her deciding to keep the baby. And then we skip ahead 5 years, and Lucius has gotten out of Azkaban, and he's wondering why he didn't go to jail for rape. And so he literally looks up Ginny because he wants to see what's going on, and he discovers that she has a little girl and that it's his. And then it begins a thing of him wanting to get to know his child, her sharing that like she forgives him. She's like, it was a tough situation. You did everything you could to make it easier for me, and like she's like, I love my daughter, so I wouldn't take any of it back at all. So it's a slow burn romance between them as he gets to know his daughter, and the two of them fall for each other. So I did end up giving this one only 3 stars though, and it was a 1 on the spice scale for me. This one just went on and on and on, and there wasn't any spice really in it, and there wasn't any, like, I don't know, it just wasn't for me, which made me kind of sad, because previously a Ginny and Lucius book that I read I've read a few of them, and they've been some really great pairings before, so didn't really love that one. Then I listened to Not the Kind of Earl You Marry by Kate Pembroke. This was on my TBR for the readathon. I've had this book for a while. I think I've had it since it like came out, because one of my friends had talked about it, and so I snagged it. This one is a fake engagement. So we have our hero William and our heroine Charlotte, and William is working on his political career, and someone puts out a rumor that he's gotten engaged, because they either want to force him to say that it was a lie and then make him look bad and like ruin this woman, or else, well, there isn't an or else, that's what they want to try to do. So when William and Charlotte find out about this, that it's been posted in the paper that they're engaged to each other, and they've never even really been around each other at all, William convinces her to go along with the fake engagement for a while, because he's like, I just want to ride out this fake engagement until I get the position that I want in Parliament on this one committee, and then once I have that position, we can break off the engagement, and I'll like already have my position and everything. And so this is them working towards that. So yeah, I had an audiobook for this one, and I gave it a 3.5 star. There wasn't anything wrong with this book. The banter was cute. Some of the fake dates they went on were cute, but it also is not memorable to me at all. Like, I've already forgotten a lot of the moments in this book. There was nothing super great about it. The thing that I do love is I love what the hero is trying to do. Like, he wants this position in Parliament because he's trying to help out those less fortunate, and he wants to try to like change the track of some people. So he definitely has some good aspirations, and the heroine is a bit of a blue stocking, so she really admires those parts of him, so that's great. But again, there's nothing really memorable about this, and I've already forgotten it. So I gave it a 3.5 star, and it was a 1.5 on the spice scale. And yeah, it just wasn't anything special. All right, then I'm going to put these two together because they were literally part 1 and part 2 of a book. So there was A Courtesan Submission, part 1 and part 2. This obviously was a historical. This is one that I got during one of the like free bundle, you know, where you could get a bunch of free books. So it's been on my Kindle forever, and I'm trying to read through some of those, and I have a lot of historicals, so I put a lot of them on my TBR for this month. What was interesting about this one, okay, so this is a dark historical romance, like really dark. The heroine gets kidnapped because it's believed that she was trying to blackmail some lords, which, by the way, she is trying to blackmail them, but the people she's trying to blackmail, they are all slave owners, and they're all like bad dudes, and so she's trying to ruin their lives, and that's what she's trying to do. But the hero, he is a ex-intelligence officer for the, like, I can't remember if it's the royal whatever, but for the crown he is. This takes place in America, and it takes place pre-Civil War. It's in like the 80s or something like that. I don't even remember, but he's taken her captive. And he literally is like sexually torturing her to try to get information. Him and 2 of his servants do this alone and together. And so for the first part in the first part, he's wearing a mask for the whole anytime when they're interacting, because he actually met her before this, and they actually had like kind of had a flirtation. And so when he discovers that she's the one who is like blackmailing these men, he feels super betrayed, and maybe she was going to try to blackmail him as well. So she has this little black book that has all of her information in it, and he wants to get a hold of it and find out what she was doing, but she just refuses to give in to him because she really believes in her cause and what she's trying to do, and so she's just not going to give in to him, even when he sexual tortures her. So there is some non-consensual, dubious consensual things that happen. So we have part 1 and part 2. They really blend directly into each other. There's not really so much a cliffhanger in the first part as like it just stops and then you need to start the next one. And I was intrigued enough to keep going because I was really like, he's done some bad stuff to her. How is she going to forgive him by the end of this? You know, it was one of those ones where it's just crazy. And then we enter part 2, and it was literally just like torture erotica for the whole thing. Like, she likes a lot of the stuff he's doing to her too, so she feels a lot of guilt because he's bringing her so much pleasure. He's sexually torturing her to get her to give away information, edging her to within an inch of her life, preventing her from using the bathroom until she like relieves herself on herself and then like embarrasses her. There's anal, double penetration, there's 3-on-1 in here, there's squirting, bondage, impact play. Like, there's a lot of kinky shit happening in this, and it's a very dark historical. And there is like forced bondage, edging as a punishment, like she's kept in a cell, isn't allowed to wear clothes. Like, it's intense. And then like how it works out in the end, I was kind of like, okay, so she's just supposed to be all right with everything that happened to her. I don't know. So I won't tell you how it ends, and you can check these out if you want. I gave both of them 3.5 stars because I couldn't put them down. I couldn't put them down. And maybe it was because I was reading some mediocre things before that I was like, I read both of these back to back. I couldn't stop. So what do you know? And the first one was a 4 on the spice scale, and the second one was a 5 for sure, because literally there was sex every other page. There was sex happening. So it is definitely a very erotic story. All right. Then I read a graphic novel arc. It is called Ruin by Sarah Vaughn. Now this is a little bit in the vein of like a Pride and Prejudice style thing. This is coming out in November, so it doesn't come out for a little while, but it starts with an arranged marriage, and we have Andrew who is trying to put his home and his world like back together. Things have really kind of fallen apart recently, and so he's trying to piece everything back together, and now that he has like his wife's dowry, and then it is a slow burn between the two of them to get together. And we do see some other relationships within it as well. There's even a queer relationship in here. So I ended up giving this a 4-star because a lot of people had rated it really harshly. Whereas for me, like with graphic novels and manga and the like, I usually rate them pretty favorably just because there's only so much story you can get across within the pages of it anyway. And I thought that it was done marginally well, and I would be interested in reading more of their story, but it definitely has them not, you know, like them not knowing if they should like be together or not, if it's just supposed to be a marriage in name only, or like what they're going for with it. But there is some on page like sexy stuff, like we do see some naked bodies, but not really a lot of like graphic stuff in there, but it is kind of there. So I gave it a 4-star, and it's a 1 on the spice scale. We'll see. If you like graphic novels and you also like historical and like Jane Austen style stuff, maybe you'll want to try this when it comes out. I don't know. We'll see. But it was available on NetGalley, and I saw that it was a, when I saw that it was a graphic novel, I was interested in trying it. So I went with it, and we'll see. Then I just wanted something fun, so I read Yakuza Lover Volume 7. This continues the story of Yuri and Oya. Oya is a part of a Yakuza syndicate, and she was a college student who fell in love with him, and we've been seeing their antics for the last 6 books, basically. And this one covers Valentine's Day, so not too much else to say about it. As I usually do with these, I gave it a 3.5, and it is a 1 on the spice scale. I love that series. I don't feel any guilt for enjoying them, but I also feel like the story doesn't really like move forward. Like nothing has like really happened in the past volumes, but I have volumes 8 and 9 that I plan to read during this readathon because there's some quick pages to add. So we'll see what more happens. All right, then I finished Cruel Seduction by Katee Robert, which released last week, and I of course waited till the last minute to read it. I was really nervous to read this one, and it turns out I was right to be. So I have enjoyed the books in the Dark Olympus series. I rated the first book in the series a 6-star read. I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed books 2 and 3. Those were both 5-star reads for me. Book 4 was a 4-star read for me, and this one was a 3-star read for me. And what I'm discovering is happening. Not only is this one her poly, open, quad, whatever, which I don't have a problem with that. I didn't have a problem with that. The problem was there's too many fucking characters in this series, okay? There's too many. Your brain hurts. Not only is there 4 characters in this, but 2 of them are gods who have gotten new names. So there's 6 names that our 4 characters are known by, and it's just intense because we have Aphrodite, who she used to be someone else, and then we have Hephaestus, who used to be Theseus, and then we also have Adonis and Pandora, who were either the friend or the lover of those 2, and so by the end of this book, they're agreeing to be in an open poly relationship with all of them, because it starts with Hephaestus and Aphrodite being forced into a marriage in the beginning, and, you know, he's supposed to be working with, he's supposed to be doing the bidding of his king or whatever, and Aphrodite is willing to be in this arranged marriage so she can keep an eye on him and try to mess up his plans. So in the beginning, we do have them consummating their marriage, and then there's some hate fucking with them. Then Hephaestus decides to seduce her ex-lover Adonis, who she had to break up with so that she could marry him. And then she decides to seduce his best friend, who is Pandora. So yeah, we have the fun, you know, queer stuff happening in there. We have a couple scenes where multiple of these people are together. But really what the issue is that there's too many characters, because besides those 4 people with 6 different names, we still have all the rest of the pantheon that we're dealing with, plus like the press getting involved, and there just was not time for there to be any meaningful relationships between these. Like, every other book, I have felt more connected to the couples. So if you're going to have 4 characters that go by 6 names, there are not enough scenes between each person to build the relationships that were here by the end. And this whole book takes place maybe in a 2-week time period. So we went from not only like everybody kind of hating each other to being trusting enough to be in a committed open poly relationship. Like, how did we get there? I didn't believe it. I didn't buy it. This was a complete, like, fail for me. I would have rated it lower if I hadn't have read an arc. Like, I gave it a 3 stars, really like the lowest that I give an arc. And I also don't feel bad giving it because it's Katee Roberts and she has a lot of people reading her books, so I don't feel bad like rating it as a 3. But I was just so disappointed in this one, and not for the reasons I thought I would be, because she didn't build connection between any of them. There was there was barely even chemistry between some of them. And that is something that I've never really struggled in Katee Roberts books before. It's usually the story where I'm kind of like, okay, I don't really buy the story, but the sex or the relationship is good. This one was the complete opposite. Like, some of the, like, I'm interested in the politics of what's happening in Olympus, but she did not give these relationships enough time to bloom in any way that I would believe that these 4 people trust each other enough to even be bedmates with each other by the end. So I was so disappointed. So yeah, I gave it a 3 star, but it's actually probably lower. And it was a 3.5 on the spice scale. Yeah, there's some BDSM going on. There's some DVP that happens in one scene, which sure, it's hot, but it's not enough to save a story. Moving along, then I finished The Fallout by Every Thursday. This is a very well-known Dramione fanfic. It's on a lot of people's favorites list. I've been listening to it as it released on Spotify, which I ended up kind of jumping through the last few chapters. There's 49 chapters in this book, and when I finished it, I was up to chapter 43, and I was like, I just want to finish this one, and it was worth a lot of points for the readathon too. So I went ahead and finished it. This is a 1,200 page book. But the audiobook is pretty well done on Spotify, and it should be done by now. Like, I believe it's finished, so if you want to listen to it, you can. This is a wartime fic. It's a very slow burn between Draco and Hermione. It shows the cost of war, how your allegiances and your feelings change throughout the war. So it's very dark, pretty heavy, but it also, like, the romance was really beautiful, but it also doesn't sparkle as much as some other Dramiones that I've read. It was just kind of, it was a beautiful, and there was a lot of good, like, stuff that was touched, but it also didn't have, like, the spark for me that I wanted. So yeah, I gave this one 4 stars though. It was a very well written and very well constructed story. And it was a 2 on the spice scale. Now, there's a lot of sex in it, but it's all kind of like vanilla-ish through most of it. So that's why it's a 2, even though, like, yeah, volume-wise, there's more, but it's also nothing, like, spectacular. You know what I mean? Trigger warnings for death, torture, and mental health struggles. All right. Dude, we're only halfway through. I gotta keep it trucking. Next, I listened to Charm School by Susan Wiggs. This was one that was recommended by a viewer, and I also put it on my TBR for the readathon. So this one is also a pre-Civil War American historical, but it does take place in Boston and then at sea. So it's 1851. Our heroine is named Isadora Peabody, and she is the awkward misfit of her family. Her family is all beautiful. Most of them are already married, and it's just special and everything. And she's not. She is very accomplished. She lived with her aunt for a while, learned many different languages, learned about the sciences, but she just doesn't fit in. She's always making a fool of herself, and is just like, her family loves her, but they're also just like, oh, that's just Isadora, like that kind of stuff. Then there's Ryan Peabody, who he's from a good family name, but he walked away from it because his family owned a plantation in the South, and he has a best friend who was a slave. And when he went to school in the North, he brought his friend with him and he freed him. But now they can never go home because he could be reclaimed down there. And his friend had to leave behind his wife and 2 daughters in slavery. So Ryan's whole goal in life is to either earn enough money to buy them out of slavery or steal them out of slavery. That is what is going on. So this book, it's a pretty light tone when you're reading it, but when you peel away the layers, there is a pretty deep story being told in here. Now, how do they end up on the ship? Well, she wants to get away from it. There's someone that she's kind of in love with, but he's never noticed her, and she wants to leave for a while. She thinks maybe absence will make the heart grow fonder, and she's like, I would like to get out of town. Ryan's ship is actually like works, like sails under this man that she loves, father's company. And so she's able to worm her way in to get a job as an interpreter and a helper on this ship. So she's going to be sailing with Ryan and his crew, which he definitely doesn't want her to come, because not only is having a woman not always the best thing to have on the ship, but also because he has a secret mission that he's trying to do. And she's there to spy on him as well. And he doesn't want word getting back to the owner that he's planning to free some slaves in the South on their way back from their trip from where they're going. But yeah, so there's lots of back and forth between them. This is very much like enemies going on the ship, and a lot of adventures happen, and they slowly realize how much they love each other type of thing. And this had a very powerful ending for me by the end. I did really enjoy this, and I plan to read more books from Susan Wiggs. There's more books in this series even that I plan to read. But I did give this one 4 stars, because though I really enjoyed the story, I do feel like the romance was missing a little bit for me. So I gave it 4 stars, and it was a 1.5 on the spice scale. Then I read Rocked by Julia Wolf. This recently had a rebranding because it used to be a part of the Everyday Hero series. When you go on Goodreads, you will see that as still the branding and everything. But Julia has released it as a standalone now, and it is a rock star who is a little bit washed up, and this single mother in a small town. So he goes to this small town to kind of spend the summer, and, you know, try to get his juju back, and try to get his juju back for songwriting. The single mom, she has a daughter who is allergic to everything. She's so much so that she has to wear a fanny pack with medicines and an EpiPen in it in case she's having an allergic reaction at any time. And Kate and Devin end up having a friends with benefits relationship. They're neighbors. But Kat is very clear that there won't be anything going on between the two of them. So we'll see how that works out. This one was very cute. I love a single mom. I loved her daughter, and just like the struggles of having a child who's that allergic to things and just how dangerous that could be it was tough to read, but it was also, you know, it was good to see that type of representation in here. So I gave this one 4 stars, and it was a 3 on the spice scale. Then I read More Than Survival by Kate L. Mary. So this one was kind of funny because this was one of those that a viewer had recommended it to me, but I already had it on my Kindle, and I love when that happens. So this is a survival romance. It's a zombie apocalypse novella, which that was kind of the sticking point with this one. So we have Lucy, who has been staying with her uncle for the past 11 years as the apocalypse has happened. They live in a small cabin in the woods, and she has not seen other people in this 11 years. Because when her uncle took her in, when her parents died from the sickness or whatever, he has kept her secluded because not only, you know, are people crazy, but she has grown into a very beautiful young woman, and he knows how dangerous it is to have a beautiful young woman out in public or around anyone else. So she hasn't seen other people in all this time. And then one day her uncle goes into town for their supplies, and a big snowstorm hits. Her uncle never comes back, and she's on her own until she gets hurt one night trying to bring wood in, and Sawyer comes by, who he happens to have a cabin about 5 miles away, and he'd been making his way back, and he hears her scream when she falls and a piece of wood jabs through her shoulder. So he takes her in and is helping her, and she's like, my uncle's gonna be back soon. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna stay with you till your uncle gets home. And eventually she has to admit that that was her like lie. She knew her uncle wasn't gonna be back. It had been 2 weeks already. He's usually only gone for a day at a time. And so now it's these two surviving on their own. So this, I did give this one 3 stars. It was a 1 on the spice scale. It really only was 140 pages. So these two, it really only covers them like deciding to be together, and then it like stops. No like how they're going to continue to live, no like more than that. It's just as soon as they have like, we're going to give this a go, it ended. And I saw that's what a lot of other people complained about as well. We just don't get enough of it. And then it was over. So yeah, that's what we get. But the thing is too, she has like 11 books in this series, and they're all that short. And I just don't think that I would enjoy barely getting to know everyone, right? With the like Claire Kent series, we either spend a good amount of time in the book with someone, or we see them again in other books. So I don't know if that'll happen in that series, but the books are all like 100, 120 pages, and I just don't think I would like it very much. So then I read To Tame a Scandalous Lady by Liana De La Rosa. This is the third book in her Once Upon a Scandal series. This one was also on my TBR for the readathon because I have been enjoying this series very much. I've been listening to the audiobooks on AnyPlay, and I met Liana De La Rosa when I was at Book Bonanza, and so she signed all of these for me. So this one is about Flora Campbell, who we've met one of her sisters and a brother before. And we have Christian Andrews, who is now the Marquis of Amstead, and he owns racehorses. And she loves horses. And so in the beginning of this book, she goes undercover as an assistant trainer to the Marquis's new trainer from Egypt who's come, and the horses that he brought over from there, who had a very traumatic journey to their home. And so there's really a lot of work that has to be done, not only to like train the horse, but to like calm him down after this. And there are some races that the Marquis needs this horse to win, otherwise they're going to start losing their land and their money and everything. So yeah, so it starts with her being undercover as a man. Very quickly, like, that secret gets out, and then it's she's still keeping a secret that she is this like sister of a duke and that there's more scandal than her being a woman. There's her being a lady, and how like that could ruin his reputation and ruin everything if we found out. But yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. I loved how much with the horses that we actually did. There was lots of horse riding and training going on, and it was births of horses. Like, I love horses, so I really enjoyed that. But as with the other two books in this series, like, the stories are so unique and I really enjoy that, but then the characters fall into some of the same pitfalls that we always run into. So I don't know. But I gave this one 4 stars, and it was a 2.5 on the spice scale. There is a trigger warning for the death of a horse. We do lose a horse along the way, which was very sad. It was very traumatic to lose a horse that way. Okay, then I read Zest by L.J. Summers. This was a fan fiction that is a Sirius and Hermione fanfic. This one was really unique because it had where Harry was actually raised by Sirius. So Sirius never went to prison for the death of Lily and James. They were able to like catch Wormtail and with what he did. And so Harry was adopted by Sirius. His name is Harry Black, and he went to Hogwarts, and Neville is actually his best friend. There are no, like, the Weasleys are not really seen in this at all except for Charlie, which is kind of cool. So Neville and Harry became best friends, which is really cool. And Hermione actually went to the Beauxbatons school, so she is at the French school. And the way that everybody meets is that we do have the Triwizard Tournament, but it's in Harry's like 6th or 7th year, and Hermione is the champion from that school, and Krum is the champion from Drumstring. And so we have Harry, Hermione, and Krum that are the 3 champions. And Sirius and Hermione meet each other through, you know, her being at Hogwarts for that, and they start to fall in love, and it's a very slow burn between the two of them. Yeah. So yeah, I really liked how that change happened. What I didn't love so much, and I hate always bringing this up, but like, this one was only like a 1 on the spice scale, and it had such great story. But then once we like got to the romance, it just rushed through it and it was over. And I was like, such good tension and build up in their romance, and then there was like 1 sex scene and it was done. And I don't know, I just don't like that. I'm like, we're in a fanfic. Give me the juicy, like, serious dick, okay? Like, I want it, and I don't care if I sound horny. I'm reading a fan fiction, and I'm reading all of these pages of this, and you're building up this beautiful romance, and then they fuck once, and then happily ever after, they're married, and we're 10 years down the line. I was like, are you kidding me? No. So I gave this one 4 stars, and it was a 1.5 on the spice scale. All right. Whew, we're almost there. We're almost there. Then I read This Scoundrel Seeks a Wife by Gemma Frost. This is one that I have meant to read for a while. I've had it on my Kindle. Gemma Frost is a new historical romance author, and she writes some really good plus-size rep into hers. I really enjoyed that. And this one is about Iris, who is a bastard daughter of a gentleman, and he comes to see her with a proposal that, hey, I found you, I'm your long lost father. By the way, I'm in debt and I need you to marry somebody to get me out of debt, which she doesn't want to lose this potential relationship with her new father, so she agrees to it, and she finds herself getting married to Clark, who is a businessman who is very wealthy, but he feels snubbed by the ton. So he's like, oh, if I marry a lady, then I'll get respect. Well, I mean, he does marry someone's bastard daughter, but when he marries her, he is very nervous because she is a tiny, sweet, beautiful woman, and he's this huge man, and he's like, I'm going to crush her. I'm too oafish for this girl. So yes, this one has size difference. The hero's afraid to give her a good dicking down. But it was very charming because it doesn't last for too long. She very much wants to be with him. She thinks he's beautiful, and she's like, you're my husband. Why aren't we doing it? And he's very nervous. So he introduces some sex toys to help them along, and we give an A+ for this. So yeah, this one had big man, small woman, size difference, sex toys. I did give it a 4, and it was a 2.5 on the spice scale. Then I will kind of blend these together. So I read The Hitman's Obsession, The Boss's Temptation, and The Bodyguard's Weakness by Jager Cole. These are 3 books in a quick little trilogy of his that are all novellas. So I read the first one and I immediately read all of them. Basically yesterday I read all 3 of them and I had a fun time. So The Hitman's Obsession is an ex-bodyguard. He comes to the heroine's birthday. It's her 19th birthday. He used to be her bodyguard when she was a teenager. Now, yeah, he's there for her birthday when the FBI like raid the father's home. They're part of the mafia. So he takes her and they head out and they go stay at a family cabin or something, and then the feelings that she has for him bubble up. He didn't have feelings for her previously, but now seeing her again after a couple years and seeing how beautiful she is, he really wants her, and so their feelings bubble up and explode. So yeah, pretty short. 3.5 stars, 2.5 on the spice scale. Then we have The Boss's Temptation. Now this one is about the heroine's father from the first one. His name is Michael, and he is forced into a marriage with the daughter of an enemy to make a peace treaty. And so he gets married off to Katrina, who she is told by her family, make sure you please him. Oh, and also could you spy on him a little for us? Now, she immediately is won over by him because he very much is like, I'm not going to push myself on you. You are like only a couple years older than my daughter. But she's very attracted to him, and she's also been told to please him. So she tempts him quite a bit very quickly. But I really liked these 2 a lot. I really did. I gave this one 4 stars and it was a 2.5 on the spice scale. And then I finished off the week with The Bodyguard's Weakness, which is about, this one doesn't as directly connect with the others, but we have Dominic, who is a bodyguard and soldier for the mafia, and he gets asked to look after the Don's granddaughter, Lucia, who happens to be in town. She's 21 and she is in the States from Italy. She's here for a while. And Dominic does not want to babysit her, but he gets asked to do this. And if he does a good job, he might get a promotion. So they end up going to Vegas because she wants to go to Vegas and gamble and go to shows and everything. And they end up getting married at a chapel. And now they're fucked because she's supposed to be arranged. She has a fiance that's it's going to be an arranged marriage, and they both have rings on their finger when they wake up. And so that's not going to be good for Dominic. He could get killed for this, and not going to be good for her if she hadn't kept herself a virgin for her new husband. So this was my least favorite of the 3 just because like it had a strong beginning, but then the hero kind of like wimped out on taking his woman, and he only really got her because the fiance ended up being a horrible person. It wasn't him like taking the woman that he wants, so I didn't love that. But yeah, this one was a 3 for me and a 2.5 on the spice scale. It did have a tiny bit of daddy kink, which was kind of cute. So okay, so I know I rushed through a lot of those, but I don't have a lot of impassioned things to say about most of them, and that's why I did kind of push through those quickly, because I don't have a lot of strong things to say. I am in the middle of reading Jess Weisskopf's upcoming release, Feathers from the Sky, and this is a vampire romance, and I'm really liking that, so I'm hopeful that I'll have lots to gush about next week for that. And then I'm also reading a very anticipated historical romance right now called Poppies and Silk that I am also hopeful for with that one, as well as there's some other new releases coming that I'm excited to get into. So looking back, what were my favorite reads this week, even though nothing was over a 4-star for me? Well, I would say that Charm School does stand out. As I said, I wish the romance had been a little stronger, but it did still have a really good message to it. And I loved the lengths that Ryan was willing to go through for his friend and how horrible he saw slavery and just how he was like, it is such an injustice and I'm trying to do the little parts that I can. And I mean, you have to be impressed by that. It was really well done. I also think that, I would stick by The Fallout, even though it wasn't perfect. Like, the author put so much time and thought into that story that even though it wasn't exactly for me, I still stand by that as a Dramione recommendation, especially because that audiobook is done now. The audiobook was very well done by ETL Echo. They did a great job. So, all right, so there we go. That is my weekly reading. Like I said, one of the most, like, productive weeks for how much I read. I read a lot of stuff off of my TBR, so that was really helpful as well. So yeah, this next week I have some Patreon books I want to get started on so I don't get behind on those. But yeah, that is what we're looking at for the upcoming week. So thank you so much for watching. Again, thank you so much to the new patrons who joined. Thank you to my patrons and channel members who keep this going. If you are interested in helping the channel in any way, please check out my Patreon down below. There's also options to do a one-time gift through my Ko-fi or some other aspects down there. I would really appreciate any help you can give to the channel, even if it means just giving this video a like, commenting what your favorite read of the week was, and we'll see you next time. Bye.